Hi, Booker T.
That's good.
Booker T. Well, now we're trying to get the dogs to talk to each other, but
Say hi.
She's like the grumpiest.
hello, everyone. This is the show Isolated Tracks on KEXP, and I'm Julian Martlew. Today, we're talking with Delvon Lamarr of the Delvon Lamarr Organ Trio and Jason Gray, bass player for the Polyrhythmics and producer of the record, about a song called Right Place, Right Time from the album I Told You So, which is out on Coal Mine Records. And we're going to have a link for the whole song down below so you can go and check it out after we talk about the tracks in isolation. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, good.
Doing fantastic, Julian. How about yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Did you record the record at that studio that I'm looking at right now?
This is correct. Yeah, it all happened right here in Blue Mallard, my backyard.
Nice. What are you running in there? What's your setup?
So my setup is actually kind of a bit of a trickle down from my mobile recording days. I just spent a lot of time kind of just going around to different places, recording what I could, who I could. I basically record clean, with the exception of the preamps. I don't record using compressors or reverbs or anything like that. I usually save all of that for post. But I do use some Vibey preamps on the way in. To try to kind of emulate that old classic sound that we're used to this type of music being passed through or being captured by. So that's basically what I got. It's a pretty simple intake process. The big part is kind of more mixing with microphones, getting the sounds, getting the tones right, getting the musicians and the instruments to interact in that room in a way that works.
Well, tell me the story of this song, Right Place, Right Time. Who wrote it? How did it come together?
Well, it was kind of collab between really me and Ben Bloom, a polyrhythmic guitar player. And I don't know why he came to the studio. I think he was there to see Jason, and he just kind of stopped in at the same time, like most of the I Told You So album, like a lot of those tunes were unfinished tunes when we got to the studio. So generally, like in between songs, I would try to figure out a melody and try to figure out other parts. And so I had this bass line groove, and, we started developing that. And in the process of doing that, Ben comes in, and I was just like, hey, man, you got your guitar? He's like, yeah, I got it. I was like, go grab it. And so we came in, we pretty much knocked that song out quick, man. He threw that melody over the top of it, and it was a wrap, man. So that's why we called it Right Place, Right Time, because he just happened to be there at that moment to help write that tune.
Well, we should probably play a little bit of that just right now so that people know what we're talking about. I'll just play the whole track, just the very beginning, so that you can hear the melody like this. All right. So the first thing, and I have made this mistake, and a lot of people make this mistake. Who's playing bass?
That would be I. Yeah. Nah, I play bass with my left hand and my left foot. Right foot will not cooperate with bass pedals. I'll tell you that now.
Wow, I didn't know that.
But
so tell us a little bit about the organ, because I've helped you carry it a few times, so I know that it's basically like a tractor trailer. Like basically, I mean, the organ and the pedal steel is like a forklift or a tractor trailer. You got a lot of buttons, a lot of drawbars. You got pedals, you got keys, you got the Leslie speaker. how do you put it all together? What's going on there?
A lot of therapy. No, I'm just kidding. but I don't know. It's one of those things. Like when I first started playing organ, the entire thing, all of it just came naturally. I don't know why. Just the first time I sat down at an organ, I could play it, and it's a beast, and that is the nickname of the Hammond B3. It is the beast, and 400 pounds of metal and wood and wires. Yeah, it'll break your back quickly.
So, what are some of the controls that you have? Like, what can you do besides play notes?
So on one end of the organ, you got your black and white keys, like a piano, white and black. I don't know how you do whichever way. And on the very end, it has some black and white keys, reversed colors. So like the I don't know, the
sharps
on
are
the
white.
the sharps and flats are white. And those stay down because those are presets. A lot of people, I get a lot of questions about what are those. They're presets. So inside of the organ, if you ever get a chance to look at it, it's crazy in there. But in the inside of the organ, there's a panel with a ton of wires on it and screws. They're all screwed into like a platform. And you can actually change your preset sounds by moving wires around. So you got to know which wires do what. But and that way you don't have to use the drawbars, which are the little tabs at the top that allows you to change your sound. So if there's a certain sound that I like on this song, I can just set that preset. It is a process to do that. And I've only done it once, and I said I'll never do it again. I'll just use the drawbars. But it has a coarse vibrato, a little knob you can change. Either you can have chorus or you can have it on vibrato, which is you have a vibrato, you can get some interesting sounds out of that. It has a volume pedal with your right foot, or if you can play with your left foot, that'd be weird. But it's a hot mess.
And you're running a Leslie speaker, right?
Yeah, I run a Leslie speaker, spins top and bottom. Get a lot of questions about that. It's like people are always fascinated with the Leslie because they see the horns spinning in there. They always want to know what it does. And basically it's a tremolo. So it just kind of throws the sound out. It's like, I guess it's like old school 3D sound.
So Jason, when you record this beast, what do you like to do?
So my general approach to recording applies also to Leslie, and that is to take a step back, record the thing as a whole. Right, I don't like to put too many mics on it. Some folks will put for a stereo configuration, will put one mic on one side, one mic on the other. I like to more kind of make a matrix or a set of microphones that would mimic if you were just to kind of walk up to the thing and take a listen to it, right? And that's what it's designed. It's the sound it's designed to do. It's not designed to record. It's designed to be live, specifically to be live in smaller, poorer churches. That's what the Hammond was created for. It was created as a portable pipe organ for churches to be able to emulate those sounds and have their normal course of worship without having a giant, built-in installed multi-$1,000 commitment, right? And it could be transported, just as we were talking about how hard it is to transport. That was actually super portable back in the day,
right?
For an organ, and still is, considering what it can do and the different sounds it can make. So I like to take all those things into consideration when I record it and say, well, what was it designed for? What was it meant for? And try to do my best to capture that. With Delvon and the way that he uses the Leslie and the tremolo, I've had great success using a a mid-side rig for that, which basically takes one microphone that hears in two directions. That gets your stereo field, and then another microphone that hears the center. And so you kind of mix those all together, and you can create a more broad or a more narrow stereo field. And sometimes I do in mixing that field will be larger, smaller, wider, or narrower, depending on the tune, what the tune calls for. Sometimes it can be distracting if you get all this swirling and stuff. It can you listen to it and you fall over or whatever, so it's a powerful instrument. And so I like to take a step back.
Well, we're nerdy enough that you can tell us what mics you actually used if you want.
Oh, absolutely. I for this recording, I believe I used a Cascade Fathead. And that would be for the side, and that's a ribbon mic. And so
I have one of those.
You have a Cascade? Or you have a ribbon mic?
I got the ribbon mic. I got the Fathead too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, same thing.
With the Lunsberry or whatever that is in there.
Oh, the Lund Transformer. But yours that's fancier than mine. I just got the stock one.
No, I'm better than you. No. I got to learn how to use it.
I'll put the null or the part of the mic that does not pick up sound towards the Leslie, and the parts that pick it up to the right and the left, so facing to the right and left. And so that will pick up the stereo field, and then just a regular old SM57 right on top to get that center channel. So it's a
workhorse.
It's good sound. Yep.
Well, let's listen to some of that. I'll play just now for those that are watching. This was recorded live, so the whole band is playing together. And so you will hear everyone, you'll hear more organ than you did before. Okay, so you're playing tight little stabs.
Yeah. Well, I can't do nothing else playing that bass line.
Yeah, that bass line is going. Yeah.
Nah. I heard that. Okay, I'm going to play it again just a little bit, just to think about the bass line, people. Oh, it's so nice. I heard Daniel Lanois, who we're going to talk to about another organ in our next episode, say that one of the best things about the Hammond is that the bass is perfectly in tune.
Yep. Until you're playing in the wrong key.
Until you're playing at some festival with a generator out there that's sagging.
That totally happened. See, with the Hammond organ, when you plug it into an outlet, it requires 60 hertz from the power source, and if those hertz are off, then it will play out of tune. The generator will spin slower. And so we played a gig. We opened up for the B.B. King Blues Band. This was a long, long time ago. And it was a festival up in Everett. And it was like in some big park. There was a building next to the place. So they had this giant generator. We plugged the organ in. The thing was like a half step off. It was like detuning. And so we were like, and I was supposed to play with another band later on that night as a bigger band. And it was so out of tune that we were like, what are we going to do? And this is how lucky we got. So we were walking around this building. It was like an old building. I don't think it's actually used for anything anymore. And we were trying to get in to see if we can find a power source in there. And it was completely locked up. So we're just like, man, we don't know what to do. So I'm walking, and I just happened to look at the side of the building. There was an extension cord coming out of the window. So I plugged in. And that's how we got, and it worked. And that's how we got through the show. We had
Wow.
daisy chained extension cords going all the way across the park. It worked. Yeah.
That's a good story. I did not know that would happen if the power was off.
It happens a lot at like festivals when they're using those generators.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has to be a certain thing if it's going to play in tune. Like it'll turn on and it'll work, but the lower the hertz, the lower the pitch gets.
So it's a little bit flat.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's amazing. Okay. So you're playing, and then Ben comes in and makes this melody.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool. So that means now we have to hear the answer to the question or the question to the answer, because it's basically back and forth.
Yep.
All right. So here's Jimmy, same spot. And together. Okay, so the first thing is those two guys
they play really well together.
Tight.
They do. They sound really good together.
And they hardly ever do it either, which is cool.
That's just crazy. So we got our low end and the stabs. We got those guys. There's a lot of space in the arrangement, right?
Yeah.
And I know Jimmy's probably just going to the amp. Like maybe sometimes he sticks a fuzz in there, but it's probably just amp, right?
Jimmy never uses effects. I finally got him to use a wah pedal. It took 5 years to get him to use a wah pedal. I wrote a tune specifically for him to use a wah pedal.
Oh, wow.
That's how I had to do it.
That's great. Which tune is that?
It's not out yet. It's going to be on our next release. That is called This Is Who I Is.
This Is Who I Is. All right.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing it. Let's go to our last stem here, because it's a complicated and yet extremely simple song. So what'd you do with the drums?
Well, real quick on those drums, I actually showed Grant that drum because I was the drummer, and that's a signature Delvon Lamarr beat right there. It's one of the few beats I remember how to play.
All right. So this is one that you practice regularly, or one that's just stuck in the deep brain?
It's just stuck in my head. Back in the day, I had a band called Megatron, and Julian McDonough was the drummer in that band. And I remember we used to play, I always say it wrong, Water No Get Enemy, the Fela tune. And I was always fascinated with that Afrobeat, because I've never really heard Afrobeat music before.
Uh-huh.
And when I saw Julian play that beat, I was just like, that's amazing. And I've never seen anybody play that beat before. So it inspired me to learn how to play that beat. And then that's all I got.
All right. Well, I'll play some of it so people can hear. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And Jason, what do you got hanging out microphone wise?
Similar to the Leslie, I like to take a step back and try not to close mic anything if I can help it. The two things that I actually do close mic just for safety, if nothing else, is the kick drum and the snare drum. And I try my best not to use those, or use as little of those inputs as I can in the mixing process. the two things that do the heavy lifting is the overhead and what I call the side mic. It's kind of what's commonly known as like the daptone position, like kind of pointed at the snare shell, off on the hi-hat side, and then again, kind of mixing with the mic. When we're getting tones, I play with the position to get the balance of the thwack it'll get from the beater head of the kick versus hi-hat versus snare, and just kind of like balance those amplitudes together so that you can actually get a fairly complete picture of a drum kit, the snare hat kick, just with that microphone. And then that way the top end, it sees the head of the snare drum, which gives it more body and a little more duration in the snare note to taste, of course, based on how you treat it later. And then the whole top end of the kit, cymbals, and then the toms. And so for the top, I like to use the ribbon mic. Ribbon mics, I like them a lot. They respond in a really nice way.
Keep going.
The top end, I use a Beyer M500 for that, usually. And that's a really nice, crisp microphone that isn't too harsh on the highs. So, drummers can just kind of lay into the ride or just a hard crash. And it just does a really good job of smoothing out the unpleasant little peaks. And then the side mic is actually completely top secret. It's made by a company that just recently went out of business, that everybody would get to, people would go to buy RC cars and like their random, transistors and resistors and parts and stuff. So yeah, cheap mic that's just something special, and it's actually not even mine. I've had it on loan for a handful of years. Don't know what I'm going to do when it's recalled.
I think that was mine. That was mine.
Nope. So anyways, yeah, the side mic is just a dynamic, moving coil dynamic mic, cheap one from Radio Shack. And it's just, that's, whatever. It's old. It's been beat up in just the right way. And it has just the right frequency response. It's a little cranky. Gets that nice, like mid-rangey snare pop that is really useful in funk and soul music.
Okay, so
4 mics total.
We got the kick and the snare, which you're hoping to blend only if you need it.
For reinforcement, yeah.
You got the side mic and the overhead. You got a mid and a side on the organ. You're doing one on each guitar amp. And that's it.
That's it.
You got a room mic. You got any crazy other secrets that you can tell us about? The biggest secret, I guess, or discovery that I've made recording like this and recording good musicians in a good sounding room, you can have them all together. If you don't isolate, you don't really need a room mic. The drum mics and the organ mics really do act a lot like room mics. And so that's part of my consideration when I engineer the session. I've put up so many room mics and used exactly that many of them. And I don't know what the answer to that or why, I don't think I need to find out though, because I have what I need with the other channels. And it's just getting the right balance of mix. And don't get me wrong, I got some fires to put out sometimes where it's just like I used to scratch my head like, how am I going to get the guitar to sound a little more defined without getting it louder, because I have so much bleed over here in this corner. And, and I just scribble it down in the corner and say, don't do that next time, but yeah, the room mic is just everything combined they're all room mics. They're just closer to certain things than others. And are you using baffles? Are you kind of boxing things apart at all, or just embracing the sound of a live band in the room?
Just the whole shebang. Everybody's looking at each other. Everybody can see each other. No baffles on this recording at all. I do use them frequently. And there are situations where I wished I had. But yeah, it's just kind of like, I try not to. If I have to, totally cool. No problem. But not in this one. There are no baffles in this one.
Okay. So I know we were talking about this before. We have to listen to this solo.
Yes.
It was just a fantastic solo.
It's amazing.
So
Yeah.
I'll play a little bit of it just isolated, just so we can say that we did that. And then we can listen to a little bit of it in context. Okay, it's amazing. And
It's dope.
it's just by itself, it's a thing, but it doesn't make sense without the context, right? And here it is with the context. Oh, man.
It's just so tasty, man. It's so tasty.
Yep.
I don't even know what to say. It's dope.
It's so good. So what's going on chord wise? There's like an A section, a B section, and
That's about it. I think, what is that? I haven't even played that song since we recorded it. So that C minor, yeah, it's just this is C minor basically.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then the change.
That's it. Something.
Something else.
More notes. I don't remember.
Here, just reach out and figure it out. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, it's a great tune, and the whole album is full of tasty, tasty licks and solos, and everybody gets to shine. And I highly recommend to those of you watching this who have not heard this band before that you go listen.
It was in E flat, and the change was in C.
There it is.
There it is. It's in there. It's all in there. We just got to dig.
I had the minor part right.
Beautiful. You got any other sneaky things you want to add to the story?
I'd be curious how long it take you to get Grant to learn this drum beat.
Oh, he learned it immediately.
Right.
I don't know. I think he may have already knew it before I did.
that was your softball to talk smack about Grant.
Well,
no.
Yeah, you should at least. I realize we never talked about those guys. So tell us a little bit about the other players in the band. That'd be good to have.
All right. Well, you got Jimmy James, the masterful soul man of the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
On Grant Schroff, drummer of Polyrhythmics. Man, we just had the whole Poly crew there. Look at that. He was on the drums, and we recorded at a time where we didn't actually have a permanent drummer in this band. You know, we've been kind of cycling through different drummers over the years trying to find the right fit. And we wanted to record, you know, so our last tour, and I love Grant. Grant, we've been friends a long time, and he's a dope drummer. And we went on a 31-day European tour right before we recorded that. I think we had like 4 days off before we actually went to the studio. And you know, most of the songs like that we did in the studio, we actually came up with like the majority of the ideas while we were actually on that tour. We used to come up with these grooves during sound check. And there's been a couple of times where we actually tried to play them like Aces. Actually, Grant wrote Aces on the train. He like sang it into my phone. He was like, hey, this is a good groove. And he sang it into the phone. And so we get to the show later on that night. I was kind of messing around with it. And there's actually a YouTube video of us playing that for the first time. It was in Set, France. Huh. And we didn't have a melody for it or nothing. It was just a groove. And we had basically he came up with that idea like literally a few hours before we got there. So, when we got to the studio, we had to basically kind of write a lot of these melodies and like other parts to the song. So we'd be messing around in between songs trying to figure out what to call them. Call your mom, Jason. I don't know if you know this story, Jason. I've said it before, but like people keep asking me, where did the name Call Your Mom come from? And I remember when we were kind of recording that tune, you were like, what do you want to call this one? And I was like, I don't know. And you just said, call your mom. I was like, all right, that's cool. Let's do that. And dude, it wasn't until like 2 months later that I realized there's a giant sticker on the back of my organ that says, call your mom. It was, we did a show in Birmingham, Alabama at a place called Mom's Basement. And that's what the sticker was from. And I literally had no idea that it's big too. I don't know how. So yeah, that's where that came from.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like people come in and they want to record, and it's like I have a rule. It's like before we record, you gotta give me the name. Give me a name, something that it can't be like new tune 1, new tune 2. Like create a name, even if it's a placeholder. And so, yeah, it's just like, it just kind of looked around like, call your mom. That's it.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me. It's just fascinating to hear how these killer grooves get laid down and what's going through your brain when you're setting up for a session like this. We really appreciate it.
Discover new music at listener-powered KEXP.org.